Good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. Yep, Twitch has decided I'm now online. So we will continue doing some carving on the background to smooth that off. And I want some glasses. Switch glasses. And that's crashed. Oh, that's clever. Okay. Okay, so what I'm doing now is just making sure this background is reasonably flat. I get out some of the bumps like in there and some of the rough patches like there, and I've got some bumps back down here, so it's really just a case of shaving the wood surface to try and remove as much of that as possible. Now it's not fantastically easy at this side here because carving onto wood is quite difficult. You ideally want to carve off of it, but trying to do that at this side here would result in me carving the wrong way, which would cause a rough surface on the wood, which I'm trying to avoid. At the end of this, I don't want to have to sand anything. I should be able to cut the surface smooth enough that it doesn't need to be sanded. And part of that is making sure you cut in the right direction with the wood grain. A little ridge in there that I can feel that I want to try and get rid of. Okay, it's there. Right. Sometimes it can be a little bit awkward trying to find where it actually is. Because while sometimes you can feel a dip, what it actually is not a dip but a rise alongside it. Still got one there. I know it's not something you can see, and I can't actually see it either, but I can feel it. And one of the things I like to be able to do with pieces that I carve like this is to leave them so that they, they're quite a tactile thing. You can run your fingers over it and you can feel it. You can feel the surface of the wood, and I want it to feel nice and smooth. I don't want dips and cuts to be felt. Ultimate Tiba, hello and welcome, good evening. Yes, it has been a while. I haven't seen you around for a while. How are you doing? At least that ridge I'm starting to be smaller now. I think actually I've got a bulge. Still struggling with the PC. Okay. I'm not doing too bad, thank you. I have had a job interview today, which I hope I've done well at. And because I know what happens next in that, I hope I don't hear anything next week. Because if I do, that means I didn't get the job. But so I'm hoping for that. And I had my phone fixed today as well. The problem with my phone where the screen was bulging away from the screen, from the rest of the phone. So I've been into the shop today, and they fixed it by charging me for a new battery, which was causing the problem, and giving me a new phone to go with the battery. That wasn't bad. I mean, I know they did it because it's cheaper for them than it is to replace the battery, but I still get a new phone. I'm wondering if that means I'm going to be lucky. Maybe I ought to see if I can win a raffle or something. In the meantime, I'm doing one of the hardest bits of carving, which is to try and get a flat surface. Relatively speaking, this is harder than doing most of the rest of the detail carving. It's not quite, because detail carving takes a lot of skill, but it is actually surprising just how much skill it takes to get a flat background or flat surface. and I don't have as much skill at it as I would like. So do I, Ultimate T-Bear. I very much hope I get the job. It's going to be an important one to get, so I was trying quite hard today. In a very relaxed and professional manner, of course. It will be a job designing call center systems, basically. Not quite as simple as that. There's more to it, but that's so. When you ring up a company, when you get answered by one of these call centers, they have to be designed and built to do certain things, and that's what the job is going to be. Designing those so that somebody else can build them, but designing them. I've been in the. I guess I've not. Well, it's probably about 20 years since I last designed one, and I will get a lot of training on this job. But you kind of get things like that. Sort of, they are cool, but you kind of get so used to them that you don't think of them in that way anymore. But yes, you're right. It is cool. I always find it fascinating how a computer will talk to a telephone, or the telephone network will talk to a computer, which will take a call and decide who to send it to, and then connect the two together, and it's all done by a computer following a program. I really enjoy physical computing, as I describe it, which is I don't know, things like if you're playing a game and you use a joystick, so you've got a flight simulator, you use a joystick rather than a keyboard, or truck simulator and you use a wheel and pedals, because it makes a heck of a lot of difference to where the game feels. And so I describe that as physical computing. So you can throw a switch on your desk and something happens. One of the things I want to do, for example, for broadcasting, is to have a keyboard switches here, for example, which will let me push a button to change scenes. Physical computing, as I call it. And as I'm just describing this, that's exactly what these call center things are. Is physical computing. Something happens in the real life, and the computer reacts. Yeah. Oh, they are a completely different experience. When you, I don't know if you've ever played a game like that and tried it, Ultimate T-Bear, but it is a completely different experience. For the truck simulator, you have a truck simulator. I use a G27 wheel. For the train simulator, I've got it doesn't replicate any particular train, but it's a set of levers and buttons and twiddly knobs and things that you can sort of flick, and the game reacts. And I also, as you may recall, I fly model helicopters, and I have a model helicopter simulator. And one of the things I do with that is I can actually link my real radio transmitter up to the computer and fly the helicopters in the game. describe them as games, but the simulation is quite a game, but sort of is, and it really makes a heck of a difference. Oh yeah, is it the Omni? Is that the one that's a dish shaped and with a thing around it? Yeah, and VR glasses. That yeah, I use at the moment I use what is it? IR tracker to do the head movement, but you end up it's not quite realistic because you still need to look at your screen, so you end up sort of looking at the sides of your eyes. You sort of get used to it, but yeah, I've been keeping an eye on the Oculus Rift. I know, I think they're taking pre-orders now, but I don't think my graphics card will handle it. So whilst it was going to, I was originally going to buy it the instant it went on sale. I haven't. There's no point if my card won't actually handle it until I can get a better card. You know, something like a 980 or a pair of them in SLI. And that I know I've seen reports of people who have used that for things like the truck simulator who just say it's the wheel adds a level of realism, and that just adds an extra level on top. And so I'm guessing, you know, when you're walking about and oh yeah, I know what you mean. That's the Google thing, isn't it? It's an iPhone 5, so I don't actually know whether I thought they were only Android compatible. The way they've done it for that, or one of those apps anyway. I've had Minecraft. You could get some shaders for Minecraft that would generate a stereoscopic vision, and I can do that thing where I can look at a stereo image with just my eyes, and I can cause them to not go cross-eyed, because that's not how you do it. They actually go the other way, but I can actually sort of merge two stereoscopic images into one, and I've done that with Minecraft, and it's just 3D. I mean, when you're playing the game normally it kind of looks 3D until you actually see it in 3D, and it's a completely different experience. And the only thing that the only thing that sort of I'm half put off in a way is whilst you can sort of still use the steering wheel with something like the glasses on. One of the problems is kind of because you've got the glasses on, you can't see any of you. So you've got to know where all the gear shifter is and all the buttons are to be able to hit it without being able to see them. Because, and I wonder how the brain's going to react to sort of turning a wiper switch on in the game, which is on a stalk, but you do it by pushing a button on the wheel. It's going to be a little bit of brain hand mismatch. It's going to be quite an interesting experience when I try it for the first time. But it's I think the Oculus Rift takes a fair bit of processing power, because it runs at something like 120 Hertz does the screen in it, so you need a fairly powerful graphics card to be able to handle it. Plus, in my current setup I'd have to disconnect one of my normal monitors in order to be able to use it, because the card I've got was quite powerful. Well, it was one of the most powerful cards when I bought it, but I'm trying to think how old my PC is now. The i7s were relatively new at the time, so It's a good few years old, but it's still a relatively powerful machine. So potentially I just need to get a graphics card, but my PC is also water cooled, so it's not just it's not just a graphics card, it's a water cooling block. And then, you know, to fit it, it's not just a case of pulling the card out, it's pulling the card out, it's draining the loop, it's fitting a new cooler, it's replumbing the loop, filling it all up again. Water cooling is nice, but it kind of tends to discourage tinkering with the machine, just because it's a little bit of a pain in the neck to do the drain down and fill again. You got 380. Yeah, mine's older than that. It predates the R9s, I think. And an i5, yeah. 66. It's one of the powerful ones. Yeah, I only have I've got an i7, but the i7 it was the triple memory, not the. I think they just do it in double memory. The 2-channel memory now. It was 3-channel memory when I got mine for speed. But I think the later ones have speeded up the memory enough to not need 3 channels. But I've only got a 2.4 gig processor in there. They were horrendously expensive back then, and to even buying that. But one of the nice things about water cooling was I actually have overclocked it to with reasonable voltage increases. I've overclocked it to 4 gigs, and I have had the thing run at 6 gigs with some really silly voltages on it, which I wasn't going to leave on for much longer, very long. But these days it's running stock again, because I don't. Back then I was doing a lot of video encoding. I potentially am going to be doing a lot more now, so I might have to increase it. But most of the time, like broadcasting here, doesn't actually use a lot of power, so I can run it at 2.4 gigs, and the thing just sits there going, well, give me something else to do on my other 7 threads. Because 4 cores, 2 threads, 8 thread machine. Creams, hello, good evening and welcome. Nice to see you again. How much RAM is in this machine? It's either 12 or 16. It must be 16 gigs. I wouldn't put 12 in, that's an odd number. So it must be actually no. There's 3 sets because it's triple channels, so it could be 12 gigs. Three lots of 4. Because otherwise it would be 24 gigs, I think. So yeah, it must be just 12 gigs in this. Yeah, not 4.8. You see, Ultimate Tiber. It's 4.12. Because you needed the 3 units. Yeah, Creams will have been couple of things putting me off. I potentially am losing a job, effectively being made redundant, and then having to write things like CVs and things like that, and it's just and work late and do lots of things which just stop me streaming fairly regularly, unfortunately. I'm starting to get back into it now though, and do a little bit more. It's still a little bit erratic though, I'm afraid, at the moment. So how are you doing? I don't think I've seen you around on other streams for a while. I've sort of watched a few on an evening and when I've managed to get chance. Not too bad. It's not. More's always good, Ultimate Tea, but especially RAM. If she's doing things like video, or I do run not Adobe, Coral Painter, for example, for electronic art. That likes lots of memory, especially when you're using highly detailed canvases, large canvases. So the more memory, the better. Not yet, Creams, not yet. It's still in the balance as to whether I actually lose that job. So I've just had an interview today for another one. It's quite a complicated situation, but it'd still be working for the same company, just doing a completely different thing, which would then mean I wouldn't be made redundant. So, but hopefully today's interview has gone well, and they like what I do, and ask me to do that job. So I still might lose my job, but we shall see. I'm hoping not, of course. I'm not. I want to get that smooth, but that's going to be quite hard to do. That sounds complicated, Creams. It does sound complicated. Also sounds like you have it all in hand and sorted. Oh, I gathered that bit. But it sounded like you'd already had a judgment made, and you'd won, but they didn't actually know. Oh, by default as well, so they didn't turn up. Now, if it's a small claims court in the UK, it doesn't actually cost a great deal. I'm not sure whether you can get expenses on the third party if you win, but And of course if they don't pay, that then becomes contempt of court, so that becomes even worse. Because you can then go to you can also then go to a debt collection agency. And fun times were had by all, as they say. Well, if it makes you feel better. Sometimes it's better peace of mind just to say, what the heck, and now that is terrible, just around there, in terms of it being a smooth, because it's not. Now, this is going to be really hard to actually make smooth because I'm cutting exactly across grain, and what's going to happen here is effectively I'm splitting the grain, which is what's leaving the rough surface. So what I'm going to try and do in a moment is sharpen this chisel and see if I can just shave the surface with this chisel, and possibly the other one as well, and do it in a way to actually just smooth that edge off. Justice is best served. Well, revenge is a dish best served cold, isn't it? The phrase. Okay, well, yes, that does make a difference, creams, and of course, yeah, losing a home is not a good idea. It's not a very pleasant thing to happen, that's for sure. Well, I hope you get everything sorted out. So, I will just drop some polish onto this leather. Which is all that yellow stuff is, just a fine polish. And then I will sharpen both of these chisels, which I just do by drawing them backwards. A couple or so times. So I'm really just polishing the edge more than anything else, but that's enough to make a considerable difference. And then a couple on the back side there. And I'll do the big one as well. You got yourself a voluntary job, well done. What are you doing then, creams? So I'm just looking at how it the blade edge sparkles with the light, because actually I can see scratches or nicks in it that way, and like if I can see scratches, it means I haven't had the chisel at the right angle when I was drawing it backwards, because it should be polished clean of scratches like it has done there. So now I've got it at the right angle, and then just draw it backwards. You're going to go Ultimate Tea, but okay, well, enjoy yourself. You're going to be the receptionist for Age UK. Okay. Actually, office type receptionist, or is that a, you know, because companies give, I don't know about the voluntary organisations, but some companies give odd names to people, like you know, a shop assistant sometimes gets called a receptionist because they receive the customers coming into the store. But yeah, DBS check. I'm going to say they haven't made you pay for the DBS check, have they? Because I think you have to pay for those these days if you want one. Thank you, Ultimate Team. That's kind of you. Oh, so it's an actual. You get your own desk as well. An actual reception desk, one of those round ones with a dip in the middle so that people can, yeah. Well, congratulations. I hope you enjoy that. Well, it was by no means certain these days with the way charities are. I mean, obviously they want to spend as much money on the charity work as they can, and less on things like administration and stuff. So it wouldn't have surprised me if they required their volunteers to pay for their own police checks. I'm sure you'll do fine though in that creams. I mean, all you got to do is imagine you're talking to somebody on Twitch, but you're doing it using a speech engine rather than a text engine. Okay. I really don't know. And I know I have seen sort of, because I've been looking at jobs, things like people working in nursing homes, for example. Some of them sort of say, you know, sort of said, you know, must have the DBS, or pay for one to be done if you don't have that already. So I'm just using this big chisel like a knife and doing it really slowly because I don't want to push or split any of the wood fibres. I literally want to cut them all because that will give me a smoothish surface. What, your third charity position, your third police check, or? I know they don't, but you could almost imagine them going, oh, that's Creams again. No, she's alright. That police check, yeah. Do they carry from job to job then, or is it only applied to one job then, Creams, or is it something like I can't remember what I was about to say then. Yeah, no, it's not. I don't think it's renewed, is it? Or is it sort of if you are not in continuous employment, then you have to start again. Applied to just one job. Okay. I guess in some ways that makes. Well, I was about to say it makes some sense in that some jobs could have sort of different responsibilities and requirements, but then I was just suddenly thought, the police check is just criminal records and things, isn't it? It's not. They don't effectively have any do anything different just because it's a different job. Okay, well that surface there isn't too bad. It's a bit more undulating than I want, but I might come back to that a little bit later and just try again. I have a little bit of spare wood, by which I mean I haven't quite cut down to the lines, so I can come back to it. He says at this point taking another shave off. Okay. It's not something I've had to do at the moment. I was kind of just going to make a joke then, Creams. I'm not sure whether I was going to sort of say if you come back in a stream or two and say you couldn't take up that job, did it mean that your police check came back bad? And should we be talking to you? But Hmm. I've been carving now for quite a long time, and it still amazes me that I don't notice the blade getting blunt until I sharpen it. And like this one is sharp, and I can just cut across the wood with hardly any effort. So that's a, although it's a perfect grain direction, that just the edge there is going to be a little bit rough. It'll bug me, but there's nothing much I can do about it. Oh no, I didn't mean the one in 2009 creams. I was just making reference to if you came back sort of next week and said they wouldn't let you have the job because nearly. I'm going to do down this side here, so I'm just going to angle this in such a way I can get a chisel in. So I'm using a very great big G-clamp to do this. I will have to save up and get a proper carver's vise one of these days. And what that is it's like a plate. Sorry, a plate. It's like a flat piece of metal that you screw the piece of work to. So I screw the back of it onto this piece of metal, which then has a rod coming out the bottom of it, so like a big lollipop, if you like. And then that goes into the vise itself, which is got like a ball in there, so you can actually move it around sort of any direction, and then lock it in that direction. So being able to sort of spin the piece around while you're carving it is extremely useful. This one here, I obviously have to undo the clamp and start messing around, and doing a 3D piece is quite difficult when you can only clamp it in certain places. Well, a proper carver's vise, because you'd screw it into the bottom of the piece of work, it's quite an easy thing to move around. Shh, to tiny body. Right, is this on? Yes, it is on camera, and I'll get something caught up in my chair. Right, let me move this camera around a little bit, otherwise I'll be off camera. Right, so now I've got to carve this from bottom to top, because the way the grain of the wood is means that that's the direction I've got to do it in, at least at this top end. I think it's the same down here. We're about to find out. Yeah, yes it is. Same grain direction. It very slightly comes up. It's almost flat in that direction. It very slightly tilts up, and that means I've got to cut across that way. But in doing so, I get this nice smooth piece of surface of wood when I do that. And because of the shallow angle, it's actually quite difficult to get purchase on the wood. I mean, I can dig it in if I really want to, but at this stage I don't want to. I want to just do a not a really fine shaving, but a sort of, you know, half a millimetre at a time type of thing. Because I've got, what, a couple of millimetres or so to go down to be at the line that I've drawn right around the outside. Oh! I have just seen that last message, Creams. Congratulations, well done. What I'd like to say is I hope you didn't notice. With carving? Is that what you meant by that? I'm trying to think how I started, really, because I've never had any training on carving. I've watched, you know, some videos and some professional instructions. I guess I mean, I didn't do any carving at school, but I did woodworking at school. But that's for quite a lot of years ago. Yeah, with carving. Oh, they're supposed to be. I'm assuming they're supposed to be really good at Slimming World. So I got an idea of, you know, how to cut wood and how to use a chisel, shall we say, you know, what a chisel was for, but it's really largely been try it and see what happens, so experimentation. I'm quite good at visualizing things in 3 dimensions, so I've played about a lot with 3D design, computer-aided design stuff, and I can see a 3D design from a 2-dimensional plan, which kind of helps, I guess, with carving. But really, it was, don't know what actually, I can't recall now what prompted me to get this set of chisels. I know I went out specifically to look for things like chisels, and we found a really good place selling things like this. But I can't actually recall now what prompted me to want to do it in the first place. Because it was, I'm trying to think what. I really can't remember now. I know relief carving was what, which is what this is what interested me to start, but and then it's sort of just been a case of, hey, I like the look of that to make, and just gone, you know, drawn it onto the piece of wood and followed the sort of the techniques as they're being described, you know, like cutting out to the baseboard, blocking it out as it's called, or rough carving, and sort of, you know, people talking about wood grain and how to cut the wood in the right place, and then it's just trying it and you know, feeling the way the wood reacts, like they were describing. You know, it doesn't want to cut, it's telling you you're doing something wrong. And just sort of learn from there. No, it's not creams. It's not that, because okay, beginners, one thing I always say about beginners is cut away from yourself that way and keep your fingers behind the edge of the blade. If your fingers are this side, then there's virtually nothing that you can do that you can cut yourself, because if you push this too hard, it's going that way. The only time you're in any danger is if you don't hold it firmly. So that's the one thing, is hold the chisel firmly, keep your hands behind and use two hands, and you cannot get your hands in the way. It means your piece of work has to be fastened down like this, and it's only when you progress past that and learn, for example, not to take too big a cut, take smaller cuts. It takes a bit longer, but it's easier and it's safer and you get a better result. And what may be counterintuitive as well, and that is work with the sharpest chisels you can. The sharper the better. They're safer when they're sharper. And as long as you keep your hands behind it, you keep hold of the chisel, you can't cut yourself. I had been doing it for a little while before I was on stream, but it's understanding what you... When you understand the basics and you're just reasonably confident about it, you have to be reasonably confident. I'm waving a sharp chisel around. But I am learning. Every time I do a piece, I'm learning something new. I've never done an owl before. So this is something that's completely brand new to me. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm going to find out. And all the other pieces that you've seen me do, they're unique, and they're you know, to some extent what I perhaps ought to do is say do 20 owls, so I get better doing the one owl 20 times, but I get bored doing that. So I develop my skills wide rather than deep in that respect. But you know, I've done a dragon and now I've done an owl, or doing an owl, so there's sort of flying things, and I might do a bird next time, or I know I want at some point to do a three-dimensional owl. But yeah, well, it's knowing the safety rules. You will, or you may have seen me cutting towards myself, which is something that, you know, at school they would hit you around the, well, they won't these days, but hit you around the head with a block of wood if they saw you doing that. But it's knowing the safety and the rules about it. And if I was going to cut towards myself on this piece of wood, I'd be holding the chisel like this. So I've got my arms on the desk, I've got my wrists on the desk, and I'm holding this. Okay, it might not look like I'm holding it very well, but I'm actually holding it quite strongly with thumb and forefinger. And I would probably guide the blade using my thumb to keep it down, because I don't want it to come up, flick up. So doing that, and then what I'd do is drive the chisel using, and I'll drive the chisel using this finger here, and I'd just push, and I'd use this hand to let the chisel move, but that's about as far as I can physically push the chisel. So I'm not getting hold of it and doing that, which is where it becomes dangerous. I'm holding that so it doesn't go anywhere. I'm holding it down with my thumb, and I'm just pushing with my finger. And that's where taking thin cuts and using a really sharp chisel mean I can do that with one finger, and that's enough pressure to do the cut. And it's maybe only an inch long, but that's enough, because I can then reposition if I need to and do it again. And there's a foot 18 inches between me and the blade. I cannot move that a foot 18 inches with my finger. So it's learning what it is. And there's other things, like when I'm working with the knives, or this chisel for example, you might see me hold it down like that and put my hand there and drive it like that. It's a technique I learnt working in a supermarket where you cut boxes. A blade cuts you because it's moving at a different velocity to you, and at a different angle to you. So you know, if you slice yourself or you drive it that way, it's moving differently to you. Or you know, if you and the blade move exactly together, you can't actually cut yourself. It's sort of like the blade and your finger chase each other. You can't cut yourself because they never get in contact. So learning those safety rules, if you like, give you the confidence to know that if I'm working this way and I take too much and this blade jumps, well, okay, I'm not gonna hurt myself because it's going to go that way. If I'm coming towards myself, my wrists are out, so I'm not going to do that, for example. That would be silly. And you don't use your whole arm in driving these chisels, especially the hand chisels. As much as possible, you just use small movements with your wrist or your fingers, and then you're away. You know, you become confident because you know you're following the safety rules, and those safety rules are the ones that stop that sharp edge coming into contact with something it shouldn't. I know I've seen sort of videos and of people who would take a chisel like this and they're really yanking on it with their arms, and that's when it becomes dangerous. And blunt chisels, surprisingly, are more dangerous than sharp ones, because when they're blunt, what you end up doing is, to make it move, you apply a lot of force, and then what can happen is it will just pop out the wood, and because you're applying so much force you can't stop it and you stab forward. And I imagine that was somebody in front of you, or you were doing it the other way. That's when the blunt chisel becomes even more dangerous. Sharp chisels like this one will just slice the wood, and I'm not really applying very much pressure there at all. I certainly can do that, take a fair chunk with just my thumb. That's just my thumb driving that, nothing else. Now I am tensing a lot of arm muscles as well to hold my wrist still, but that's I'm not actually using those tense muscles to drive anything. It's just holding things in position. And actually my most likely way I'm going to cut myself with these chisels is two ways. One is talking with my hands, which is why I often put the chisel down. Or the second one is when I put them away in the tool roll, because there's quite a few chisels side by side, and as you put them in you might just catch the edges. Exactly the same as with kitchen knives, yes. I know I'm fairly convinced a lot of people have watched me on Twitch, especially when I've been using the carving knives. That's the carving knives for carving, not kitchen carving knives. Just because they're waiting to see me cut myself. But when you do the same thing is of keeping your fingers away from the bits they're going to come in contact, and keeping the knife and your hand moving together. And I think some of those people that watched would have I don't know, I'd have probably scared quite a few people if they'd have seen me when I used to do it as a job in the supermarket, because I'd be taking literally what is a razor blade in a handle, putting my thumb on the edge of the razor blade and running it round a box virtually as fast as you can, and the top lifts off. And the number of people, even when I was working it, that would go when they see you do that on the shop floor, and it scares them because you're moving a sharp blade with your finger right near to it, but it's the safest place for it to be. Which is quite funny in a way. I have cut myself on that box knife once, but that was because it was on a shelf. Pointing out it was somebody else's box knife actually that I didn't see, and I caught my elbow on it. not actually sure whether I still have the scarf from that, but I've never actually cut myself using a tool yet. Here now you can see, just as an example, these two fingers are controlling the blade whilst my right hand is pushing. These two fingers are controlling that blade, keeping it down on the piece of wood. How is it you're cutting yourself then, Creams? Okay. Okay, I guess I can follow that. I think it really has to be a case of keeping your hands out of the way. Oh, well, don't know about in kitchen use, but something. Don't know if I've mentioned it to you before. One of these. I mean, not necessarily the best thing to use in the kitchen, perhaps, but what this is a Kevlar glove. So the black that you can see in there is Kevlar fibres, and I don't know what the grey stuff is off the top of my head. It's relatively soft, but this is cut resistant. So it's not great at stabs, but with a sharp knife cut, the Kevlar resists the cutting enough certainly to protect you, unless you've been really sort of aggressive at it, I guess. But that's when I use the knife carving. I'll generally wear that on my left hand, which is holding the piece, so that if I do catch myself, and I've come into contact with it before a couple of times from a blade, never actually gone through, so it's done its job. Yeah, you can get people doing fishmongery often wear I guess it's stainless steel chainmail technique glove. I call it a chainmail glove, and here I am doing chainmail jewellery, explaining to everybody chainmail is the technique of weaving rings, and then I go and call it a chainmail glove, but it's a glove made using chainmail techniques. For the same reason, yes, a blade can't cut through the steel, and some of those blades that they use are really sharp. They make these things look like blocks of wood, you know, the way those things are sharp to cut through fish and things. But they're I guess they're all right. But if you're doing carving with them or whatever, you're holding a piece, then you're going to damage the piece because of that. And I'm given to understand they're not fantastically comfortable to wear. Never tried one, but I'd be quite happy to wear one in circumstances where I do that. Never avoid, as they say, the personal protection equipment. It's there for personal protection. In some ways I'm carving here, and I'm wearing glasses. So if I wasn't wearing glasses, in theory what I ought to have on is safety glasses. These are sufficient for this level of carving, and it's there just to stop a chip of wood basically. And I've occasionally will get one that'll bounce off. It's just happened for some reason just to catch. It's flipped a piece up, and it's bounced off the glasses. So things like safety glasses are there to be used, and use them. Right, well, like I say, it's sometimes these streams get, I was about to say deteriorate into sort of it's almost a training class, but I'm not sure degenerate's quite the right word. It's if people watching this learn something about carving or using blades safely, then I'm quite happy about that. Clarybug, hello. Welcome. Okay. There won't be as much of it about creams because it's been somewhat intermittent, but I think the end of the pyrography is still up there, and I am trying. As I keep saying, I need some more of those tuits of the round variety, so that I can get some of the because I record the Twitch stream as well. I can time lapse it and put them onto YouTube. I've got a couple up there at the moment. I think one pyrography and a couple of jewellery making things. But if you check out or look for Zaragan Art Studio, so Zaragan Art one word Studio, you can see I think there's 3 time lapses on YouTube. And you're having problems with a PC. So the AMD drivers aren't compatible. Blimey. I shall have to bear that in mind if I'm going to get a new one. Why are they not compatible? I didn't think OBS cared about the drivers. I mean, the whole thing about the way Windows things work is, I suppose it might do if it's capturing sort of a monitor image or something like that, but I don't know if you've, and I haven't, XSplit is supposed to have a free version as well available. That might work better, Claire. Hello, Felix. Goodbye, Felix. An R9 graphics card series that has an issue. Okay, there's some of the latest ones, aren't they? The R9s. Oh well, that it's not something. Well, I was about to say it's not something I've heard about, but there again, I don't. I don't actually go looking at what graphics cards have problems with OBS. And about the only time I look on the OBS forums is when I've got a problem with OBS, and at the moment I don't have one. I'm glad to say. Okay, it's not something I've tried yet, and I've kind of no real intention of doing so because OBS kind of does what I want it to do. It's not perfect. There's a couple of things I'd love to be able to do with OBS, and that is things like do screen compositing whilst the thing is live. So set up a scene off camera while the camera's still running, and then switch to it which you kind of can't do, which XSplit is supposed to be able to do, but I think that's part of the paid for version. And transitions, some of the transitions it can do, because I manually do a couple of video transitions when I stream, and I'm told XSplit can do that as a scene transition. So again, I think it's the paid for version, and can't afford to pay for it. I am hoping that OBS 10 will do that at some point, but I think they're going with a model that says they're going to have a free version and a paid for version, so I suspect those sorts of functionality will go behind the paid version. Yeah, it's that. It's that. It's not an outright purchase. It's a monthly subscription that bothers me about XSplit as well. I don't really want to. I don't make any money doing this, and that sort of cost is fine if you're making money out of doing it, if you're a partner or something like that. But just to. Yeah, that's right. You can justify a one-off, or well, at least you stand a better chance of doing it. But yeah, subscriptions. And welcome back, Creams. Now this is awkward around here, because ideally I want to drive the chisel that way, but this bit of wood here, which I want to keep for the moment, gets in the way. So I ending up cutting slightly crosswise, and you won't be able to hear it, but I can hear the wood splitting slightly as I do that, which tells me I shouldn't really be doing what I'm doing, but I've got no other way of doing it, no other angle I can get in, so okay, thanks very much for that. Let's clean this piece of wood up then. I hadn't noticed because I started a little bit. I started late because I was late leaving town because I was having a problem with my phone fixed. I will say one thing. About Apple, in that their customer service is quite good. In this respect, I had an iPhone and the screen was bulging, which was caused by the battery, but my phone is out of warranty, so what they did was charge me for the battery but gave me a new phone. Now I know they did that because it's cheaper for them to do that than it is to actually repair my phone, but it's still, I've got a new phone out of it, and it's not in warranty. The warranty is expired, but it's still a new phone. So I was, but that I couldn't get an appointment for them to look at that till 5 o'clock, and then it takes me an hour or so to get home, and then have tea, and then start and do this. So we will stop there then, and thank you very much for the reminder, Claire. So I'm going to pack up, and whilst I'm packing up, which is putting sharp chisels away in a leather pouch, always look after your chisels. I'll just remind anybody that's watching that this is just one of the crafts. Some of the pictures you've been seeing there, in fact a lot of them, are of jewellery, which is another of the crafts that is made on stream using interweaving rings. So you make things like this, which I made this morning. Didn't do it on stream, but I just made myself a new bracelet and to go with my old one. One of those is sterling silver and one of those is aluminium. I don't know if you can guess which one is which. So well, what am I looking for? I'm looking for something to put that chisel in. It's there. So yes, yeah, those pictures on the left are crafts that I do on stream. But the jewellery at the moment is available if you would like to buy it on Etsy or take a look. Take a look at the Etsy site. That is in the details down there as well. Zaragonart.etsy.com. And I'll tell you what, I'll even get Moobot to let's give Moobot a kick, see if he will put the, if I can find my mouse, put the links in the chat for you. I'd say it's worth checking out the shop, but I would, it's my shop, so but hopefully there's some really interesting things there to take a look at, and if you're interested to purchase as well. Check out the website as well, zaragonart.com. I'm building that up fairly slowly with a little bit more information about the various crafts as I get chance to put stuff up there, and some of the pieces that have been done. Some of the things like the carving pieces and the pyrography, etc. And if you're interested in seeing more of this, then and you're not following me, push the follow button. That way, if you let it, Twitch will notify you when I go live, and if you don't trust Twitch or don't want it to, there's also Twitter @Zaragonart. A tweet goes out when I go live, and occasionally for other things, and especially if I can't make a stream, for example. On the other hand, if you would just like to try and catch me, I might be streaming tomorrow night, hopefully. To let you know on Twitter if I'm not. But I should be around from about 8 PM UK time, 2000 hours GMT or UTC, they are both the same. And that was about 2¼ hours ago. So I hope I'll see you in the studio in the future. Thank you all for watching, and bye for now.